Take a look. We do know this. It was overnight that the U.S. and Israel launched a major attack on Iran. The U.S. President Donald Trump called on the Iranian Republic to then seize control of their own destiny by rising up against the Islamic leadership that has ruled the nation since 1979. These strikes have now opened a stunning new chapter in U.S. intervention into Iran and marked the second time in 8 months that the Trump administration has used military force against the Islamic Republic. And so as we're watching this reaction continuing to come in, I do want to now continue that conversation with a member of Congress. I do want to talk now to Representative Jimmy Patronis, and we'll bring him in here in just a few moments. And so we'll continue on now, and I will bring him into the conversation, the Republican representative from Florida. Jimmy, thanks so much for being with us here on Live Now from Fox.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with the very basics. Of course, this was really a sound that was heralded all around the world earlier overnight and the overnight hours as President Trump made that announcement. He put out that message that we just watched as well on his social media to make sure the American people were informed of what happened in those overnight hours with the strike. I first want to ask you, you woke up this morning to that news. What was your first reaction?
Well, I knew there was going to be a threat coming at some point, whether it be force, because diplomatic efforts seem to not be coming to any fruition. And look, the president has not kept this close to the vest, whether it be at the State of the Union, whether it be the announcements by Ambassador Huckabee about, Americans should take their flights now. Everything's been telegraphed very publicly. So Iran knew that this was just around the corner. The president, I'll say that at the State of the Union this week, the comments he made about not keeping, not allowing Iran to have any nuclear weapons was one of the events where the whole entire chamber, at least most of the Democrats, stood up in support. So this is not something that's been hidden from the public. This isn't something that's just come out as a surprise. Iran has been given plenty of chances. And this was, in my opinion, unnecessary action on behalf of the United States government.
And as we're continuing to follow that reaction, you're talking as a member of Congress. That conversation is ongoing. In just a few moments, I'm going to put up a post that we have here from Representative Hakeem Jeffries, House Minority Leader. He's been calling for more of Congress to now come together to Washington, D.C. to put up a vote as well, so just so it's on paper at this point. But he did put this on social media saying Donald Trump promised to keep America out of costly and endless foreign wars. He's now doing the exact opposite. Congress must vote on a war powers resolution immediately. Members of Congress, as you are one, what's your response to that call out from Jeffries?
I think the president was well within his bounds to do what he has done, as we're seeing an effort of global peace taking place under his leadership. This president has leveraged so many different tools, and as a challenge as the tariffs have been through the Supreme Court's most recent ruling, those tariffs ended up being a way of leverage without firing a single shot to bringing peace all over the world. Unfortunately, Venezuela, needed to learn the hard way, but we saw that take place without a single loss of U.S. life. Now we're in Iran, and the whole entire Middle East has been wanting to see peace and especially prosperity. They appreciate what the Western world has been as part of a economic partner with them. But the constant threat is they had to sleep with one eye open because Iran was so untrustworthy. And the fact of a regime of that nature needed to be put in its place. So I would recommend that Leader Jeffries have a talk with some of his other colleagues, because there was a room full of them in the House of Representatives this week that were in support of the president's initiative when he spoke to this exact concern during the State of the Union.
And he did appear to address that portion in his comments as well, saying that Iran has been an unstable regime that has continued to cause conflicts around the world. But I want to put this up as well from Leader John Thune. He says this: for years, Iran's relentless nuclear ambitions, its expanded ballistic missile inventory, and its unwavering support for the terror groups in the region have posed a clear and unacceptable threat to U.S. service members, citizens in the regions, and many of our allies. He goes forward down a little bit further to say, I commend President Trump for taking action to thwart these threats. I thank Secretary Rubio for providing updates on these issues throughout the week. And I also look forward to those administration officials briefing all senators about these military operations. Again, as you are in the House there in Washington, D.C., he talked about some of those updates that you were possibly getting there from leading officials in the Trump administration. Can you sort of provide some context to what those conversations look like? We do know, of course, things have to be kept on a pretty secret level for an operation like this to be successful, but kind of paint the picture of what the days leading up to this look like there in D.C.
Well, my district is Florida's first congressional district. We have 5 military installations, an enormous amount of the expertise that's being deployed right now in this operation. All the training, the expertise, all originated right here from Northwest Florida. So you definitely, you feel it amongst our neighbors and friends who are on these installations as, there's heightened tension. There's a little bit more of a different emotion at church or at the grocery store, at the ball games, as it was obvious that this was going to be imminent just through the typical day-to-day life and the great place of Northwest Florida and CD1. But in saying that, everything that has been telegraphed has been pretty plainly spoken through the administration. Every chance that the president has got to speak to the various efforts, the movement of troops, the movement of carriers. There's been a nonstop drumbeat of this is where we're coming. You just witnessed what took place in Venezuela. Very similar playbook, and now is imminent that it was going to take place. Whether it was going to take place today, tomorrow, or a couple of days from now, it was coming. And I really don't think you had to live under a rock to realize this was taking place. I'm incredibly proud of the men and women of Northwest Florida, because the success of this mission is going to be strictly due to the men and women that have come from this region of the country.
I'm glad you brought up the members there in your district because, again, as you said, they are the backbone of a lot of what happens here in this country and internationally as well. And so, Representative, I want to ask you, has anyone at this point come to you in your district with any concerns that they would like you to take to D.C. as you head back that way in the aftermath of these attacks?
Well, and what I typically do is my DMs are open on Twitter. I try to at least stay very sensitive to what I'm seeing placed on social media, because it's at least a live flow of consciousness of what's taking place. But the people in Northwest Florida, this military, they know what they signed up for. They're incredibly patriotic. They love their country. They appreciate the leadership of this president, but they also know that part of their job is being a peacekeeper. I believe that the president's efforts with the Board of Peace are in the right direction. I feel like the United Nations, just almost like any organization, needs to have a reset button, or they need to have the lights turned out. Let them go and reestablish themselves and rebuild it, because the efforts of the United Nations have been pretty lame. I don't see our resources going to good use there. So as the president's been saying, the heck with it. I've got very short time to serve in Washington, to lead this country, to create a world peace legacy. The Board of Peace is going to be that path. So as you bring more of those stakeholders to the Abraham Accords, you name it, let's create some settling of tensions and emotions, and let's take the threats out of our concerns. Where there's no threats, there's prosperity. I tell people all the time, one thing Florida has gotten right is we're safe. You don't have good schools, good jobs, good place to shop, good place to raise the kids unless it is safe. And this is exactly what the Middle East is striving for. They want safety. They want security. They want prosperity. These are good things in order to have a positive relationship, a good fabric of your community. And unfortunately, Iran needed to be dealt with.
And so, Representative Patronis, we appreciate you for joining us here on Live Now from Fox as we're breaking down the very latest. Any final thoughts before I let you go as we continue to really watch minute by minute to see how all of this will continue to unfold?
Prayers for your men and women in uniform as they're putting themselves in harm's way in order to do the noble deed of creating world peace. I cannot say enough of how proud I am of their courage, their commitment to country, their selfless service to our nation, and just incredibly honored to be part of this deliberative body as we support our president and creating this new future for our country.
Well, we certainly appreciate, once again, for you joining us here on Live Now from Fox. We'll continue to be in touch if any other breaking news comes up. We hope that you'll join us again.
You bet. Take care.